Guys, I beg your pardon for the interruption, since I misclicked, my mouse, and I accidentally, which caused, caused the stream to accidentally exit. Damn, my freaking some stupid mouse. But yeah, so basically, I in that fairly pleasant, fairly pleasant, you know, um, fairly pleasant dream, I basically, experienced President Sun Yat-sen's, whole life in first person perspective, as if, a, 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 as if, I lived his life as him, as if, his soul and consciousness reincarnated into my body, and then kind of lived through his life myself, and experienced all those blood baths, standoffs, wars, but also romance, um, progress, and breakthroughs that he made throughout his entire life. Though yes, he only lived about 60 69 69 years of age, and he died of liver he died of liver failure due to cancer, unfortunately, in about year 1925. And let's hope that I shall die a far more peaceful and relatively painless death than he did. You know, once I am about to kick my bucket. You know, basically, So basically, I consider President Sun Yat-sen, one of the handful examples who, who pretty much went MGTOW for the for the entirety of his life, and yet still, you know, yet still, while married, to several women, he practiced polygamy pretty much, and he pretty much went his own way. Which in turn I consider him to be one of the greatest, one of the most successful MGTOWs throughout the entire human history. Uh, uh, despite the fact that he got married to several women, but apparently, due to his status, he was able to go his own way while remaining married to several women at the same time. So yeah, and what else? And during the dream, during that dream of mine I had a couple of days ago, he jumped. He also, he also jumped to a ship and set sail to Japan. And brother, moments, epic moment of brotherhood. Though he had to part ways with his old comrades or comrades, who had to travel to the Philippines, blah blah blah, and yeah, it was probably such dream, such dream. I suppose also kind of reflected my own my very own dreams, my very own ambitions, more or less. I pretty much still kind of aspire to be him, to be like him, at least to yeah, it was such a a kaleidoscope, such a kaleidoscope, you know. Yeah, and what else? Yeah, here I enough with the dream talks. Here I show you, some of the coins, some of my old man's coins that he gathered, that he collected during his lifetime. There are a few quarter, a few American quarters here. I don't know if you can see them clearly. That's part of his collections. And yes, there are also two of uh, Kennedy's half dollars here, minted in 1997 and 1979 respectively. Yeah, they are both, I suppose, in mint condition, featuring cartwheel brilliances. Yeah. If some of you guys feel interested, I'm more than willing, to sell them to you. Yeah. We can work out we can work out a discount in the event that you purchase at least five of my old man's coins. Yeah. And yeah, there are also some memorial coins. That should be Chinese memorial coins, minted in 2016. Yeah, with a face value of 10 yuan, 10 yuan, and featuring an inscription of a monkey. A monkey. What a monkey business. You can say, yeah, what a monkey business that I'm trying to close here, that I'm trying to do here. What a monkey of business that I'm trying to do here. And yes, here comes part of my collection. Yes, there is a 1 pound, 1 quid, pound and sterling, minted in year 1989 with the Queen's inscription. Yeah. To know if you guys can have a clear view of such coin. Yeah. I believe it can sell for maybe 50 to 100 quid. But I don't suppose it's in such a good condition. So I would sell. I would sell it at 30 to 50 quid. Depending on how many pieces you would like to purchase. Yeah, there are also some Aussie coins here, but I don't suppose they are worth that much. $1, but with some different inscriptions here, which I don't really know what they are trying to portray, on these coins. These these inscriptions, don't make much sense to me. So I'll just give you guys a brief view of these coins, a brief overview. Here's the $2 coin. That should still be, I believe they are still being circulated in Australia. So I don't suppose they're worth a lot. They are pretty much worth exactly as its face value. Yeah. What else? Here's another Australian $1. Yeah. What else? Shakuyen Dama. 100 yen. Japanese yen. Yeah. It should still be circulation. It's Heisei 22年. Heisei 22年. It should be maybe year 1990 or so. So 1990 or 1989 or so. So I don't suppose it is worth a lot. And here are two. What are they? Yeah, two. Yeah, you guys see them for yourselves. 50 cents. Yeah, 50 cents. Aussie dollars. 50 cents with, of course, the Queen's inscription on the obverse on the obverse and the face values and some other inscriptions and patterns on the reverse. Yeah. I beg your pardon for the poor lighting condition here. What is going on, Seeker? Welcome back to my channel. So far, you are the only dude. You are the only viewer. You are the only live viewer who popped up to this live filming session so far. Not so good. I have to say, you know, I am feeling. I won't say I'm feeling that um, um, depressed, but you know, I'm feeling quite faint, quite weak. You know, it takes a great deal of strength, of effort, just for me to sit here and talk. And you know, yes, I did have my breakfast, though not much. I had some, you know, some cheesecake and some bread for breakfast. But I don't suppose I my lunch for today. So yeah. So yeah, I'll just show you. Yes, here's you know not here. Here's a silver nugget gifted by my uncle. You know, from one of my uncles. You know, now who I consider my adopted dad, my adopted old man. Yes. Apparently, you know, he salvaged some silver, maybe even some gold, you know, from some e-waste, from some, you know, from some recycled electronics, some old old computers and unwanted, you know, parts, maybe some parts of machineries. So yeah, so he gave me, you know, this. But I don't really, you know, plan to sell this one. So I just, you know, and it isn't worth very much anyway, because I believe it just weighs 20 grams or 15 grams, 20 grams at most. 20 grams at most, yeah. How's the quality of my camera that good? This webcam cost just three, I believe, you know, just $5 or $6, $5 or $6, 5 to 6 Australian dollars. Converted to USD, it cost less than $4. So I don't suppose it has such a good filming quality. Yeah, and what else? Yes, these no, they don't really look identical to me. These American porters, they don't look identical to me, at least on their reverse. Yes, here, let me show you one by one. Let me show you one by one. Their reverse look quite different from one another. Yeah. One has a rising sun and maybe something that looks like an obelisk here. The other one looks like the Utah. Yeah, Utah. It has a landmark of the state of Utah. The other one maybe a landmark of the state of Iowa. Iowa. I beg your pardon for mispronouncing, the name of such state, since I'm not very good at American English, and I've never been to America. I've never set my feet onto American soil. So in case I said the name wrong, please forgive me. This one has maybe a peacock or a goose on its rivers. Yeah, maybe I can sell them for a better price here in China instead of you know instead of to you guys. So I don't know, but in case some of you guys want them, feel free to reach out to me and we can work out a deal. I believe we can work out a deal. I believe we can work out the deal. So feel free to reach out to me if you want them. Yeah. Don't know about this one, but maybe it has as an inscription of the one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know much about America, since I never set my feet there. I've never set my feet on American soil, so beg your pardon. Don't know about this. Don't know very much about this one either. It features a tree for which I don't know. I don't really know much about plants or plants. Though I did kind of major in biology back at uni, and I did study biology back back way back in high school. But nowadays I really don't know much about biology, since I don't I have been watching all those science documentaries shows for a long time. you know yeah, state of Iowa. I'm glad I pronounced it right. Yeah. Despite the fact that I've never despite the fact I've never set foot or feet onto American soil. What about this one here? It looks like a cow. It looks like a cow. Me, I don't really know much. And it's maize or corn. I don't know if you Americans, say corn or say maize. Maybe you guys say corn. Since I hear a lot, since I've heard a lot of you guys, tend to say, popcorn. You go to the cinema or the movie theater, and you bring a popcorn. So I guess you guys, tend to say corn instead of maize. But back in Australia, we also say corn. We rarely say maize. But I don't really know much. Since I've never been back to Australia for nearly 10 years. So beg your pardon for my ignorance. Beg your pardon for my ignorance. Yeah. What else? the exact opposite side of the U.S. on a globe is around the Chinese Ocean, if I remember correctly. It's not. It's not called Chinese Ocean, but the Pacific Ocean. And yes, the East China Sea and South China Sea. They are all parts of the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, but they are not called China Sea. They are not called Chinese Ocean, but South China Sea and East China Sea. And once you go across East China Sea, you reach Japan. Yeah. Once you you head east, you head straight east, and you sail across East China Sea, you will reach Kyushu Island of Japan. Yeah. Yeah. I bet, but so yeah, and I guess I have shown you guys enough of the coins here so far. So I only show you guys the coins that I intend to sell, since I need to raise some funds for to you know to to sustain my living, my survival. Since I'm doing a business um in year 2026 hasn't you know yielded much fruit or many fruits, though I didn't really suffer a financial loss from doing business, since I almost, if not all occasions, um I do business online instead of face to face, and I don't have a shop front, so I don't really have to worry about the overheads or rent inevitably associated with having to do a business via a shop front, a physical shop front per se. So I do, which I consider at least kind of for fortunate. Yeah, I do have a landline, but that's for mostly for my grandma's use back then. But since it's directly linked, to the Wi-Fi router and modem, so it has remained alive and functional to this day. Yes, and I shall do my best, to keep it so for as long as I can, or as long as God wills it. you know. But I do believe, God is more or less, to kill me or to retire me by starvation. Based on what He has done to me, based on the amount and the numbers of instances and occasions in which he threw at me horrifying horror, overwhelming terror, dehumanizing and unscrupulous rapist abuse, torture over the past several months. You know, especially in March and in February. You know, so maybe you can say that maybe I have stopped believing in God, or at least I believe that I have stopped believing in the notion that God is all good and loving and compassionate. He's definitely not as compassionate as the preachers or the pastors say they are. and the evidence just lies in plain sight. The evidence lies in plain sight for all of us to see. The Christians will say you are not repenting, but only you know your Lord. They can't speak for you and will be judged. Well, everyone will be judged according to the Bible, whether you are a Christian or not. But however, while you are in this earth, I guess it is better not to judge, unless you have been through what someone else has been through, or at least you have witnessed what the person you are about to judge has undergone, has experienced firsthand from a first person perspective. Then maybe you have earned some credit, or you have earned a position to to judge, or at least to draw some conclusions. In that case, then I don't really, in that, then maybe you do have earned some credit, and you have earned a position, to come to make some judgments, to make some rational and logical judgments. But other than that, I don't believe that you know you and I or someone else has the right, or has earned the credit, or the or has met the criteria, the qualification to judge anybody else but yourselves. First of all, like Jesus said, first of all, pull out the mote, or pull out the beam from your own eyes, then you can see clearly, so that you can pull out the beam from your brother's eye, mote from your brother's eye, you know and that, I fully agree with what Jesus said, about. And so, and that's pretty much, precisely, the type of people I can't stand. They just come at you, you know and say something to you in a condescending way, or attitude, trying to educate or lecture you into doing something they want you to do. Say, you must do this, you must do that, you must go out and touch grass, so that you don't feel so miserable. But the truth is, no, say, or at least, no matter which city, or which part of the civilized world you are, no matter how hard you try to touch grass and talk to people, or talk to those mindless NPCs roaming planet, no matter how hard you try, you won't find love, you won't find comfort, or or say, um understanding from them. And neither should you do so in the first place, knowing they won't relate to you, knowing they are NPCs who don't share your ideals, or your worldview, or your thoughts about how the world runs, or how you know how human mind works, how slave masters and those politicians indoctrinate and tame, or domestic faithful subjects into total obedience and submission, so that they can continue to produce the energy and the lush and the and the servitude or they need to exert dominance over you, and but of course, such a topic qualifies for another video, many other videos on many I don't really want to get too deep. Really don't want to dive too deep into politics and blah blah blah, since I don't really know much about how politics works, or I guess I am too naive to ever learn how exactly politics works. And thus, I don't believe I've earned a single molecule of credit, to come to a judgment or a conclusion pertaining to, how you should deal with politicians, how you should, respond, or even how you should respond to, or how you should even retaliate, or even rebel against their oppression in the form of a revolution. I'm no revolutionary. Still, I've learned, I admire, and I've been learning a lot from. I don't really advocate for or encourage that you try to rebel against the rulers or the government, unless you have the necessary weapons, you have an army or multiple armies behind your back, and you have endless supplies of weapons, of ammunitions, of money. Then in that case, forget what I said, scratch that. In that case, you don't have to listen to me. But I guess generally speaking, as a commoner, we don't really have much leverage against the politicians, the rulers or the slave masters out there. But I guess the most powerful leverage we have is peaceful disobedience, by choosing not to opt in to the system, by choosing not to reproduce, by choosing not to get married. But of course, you can kind of engage in some sort of de facto marriage, say by cohabitation. Hi there. Or Scholastic. I beg your pardon if I mispronounce your nickname. Yes, I'm still starving. Though I did, I did have some snack. I did have some bread, but I just had 2 proper meals over the past several weeks. Say 20. I had a proper meal yesterday night, and I had another one a week ago. But then for the rest I just had ramen and bread, sometimes some cheesecake, donated by my relatives. Yeah. But yeah, how should I put it? Still, my life is still a mess, despite the fact despite I did manage to break the siege on one occasion last year, in which I made a business trip to Hong Kong for 4 days and 3 nights. I attended a numismatics event, and I submitted 2 of my antique silver coins for grading, hoping that I could sell them for to the highest bidder for a bit of profit, to as the digital bomb nomad. you know no, it hurts me to see you stuff. Do you know if gift cards from other countries work in area? I might buy you some gift cards for food shops and give them to you. No, please don't trouble yourself. Your current patronage already suffices to keep me alive. You don't need to trouble yourself anything more than what you have already done to show me support and give me a glimpse of hope. You don't need to do anything more than what you have already done to give me a helping hand. So don't trouble yourself. And besides, gift cards from Canada won't work in China, or at least won't work in mainland China. I'm not sure whether they might work in Hong Kong, but I don't suppose I would be making another trip to Hong Kong anytime soon, considering my devastated personal circumstances and financial condition. So, well, unless a bigger miracle or multiple big miracles occur in the future, then I might be able to make another trip to Hong Kong, and show you guys some more, glamorous scenery, some more glamorous and mesmerizing and antique coins, specifically Chinese and Japanese antique silver coins there. But other than that, I don't really have much else, to spare or to spend, even spend. Yes, here I'll show you guys what I ate. Just give me a sec. Yeah, back. So this, when I was totally starving, this little guy kept me alive and kept me pushing forward with city life. It's peanut biscuit. It doesn't taste particularly tasty, but still, it's I call it something healthy to eat, since I most probably it probably contains a lot of trans fat, trans fat, which does even more detriments to your health than saturated fat. So I don't really recommend that you guys have this for food. But during say in other exceptional circumstances in which you have no choice but to find whatever food you can eat to survive, then this little guy here might be your last line of defense against starvation to death. And this one, it's three scrolls bread, but I don't consider it a proper meal. It's pretty much still snack. And this, maybe this one you can kind of consider it a braised beef noodles, instant ramen. Yeah, but I try to avoid having this, since it also contains loads of trans fat and it is high, or I should say rich in sodium. One serving has at least you know 2400 milligrams of sodium. But whenever I have it for food, I I try to add less seasonings, less seasoning powder, instead maybe add say half of the half of its salt, just to keep my blood sodium level normal, since I don't want to catch a cardiovascular disease when I age even further, I don't really. So in a nutshell, long story short, these type of food are precisely the food you would like to you want to avoid at any cost, unless you run into unless unfortunately you run into or you get stranded in an exceptional challenging circumstance like I do at the moment. Can you give us a room tour? I recently saw some Chinese apartments. The thing that getting inside required Face ID and facial recognition. No, not necessarily. It depends on which type of apartment or flat you want to enter. This flat is fairly old. It's built. I guess it's built in around 2002 or 2003. So it doesn't have that. It doesn't have those sort of fancy schmancy or fancy schmancy security equipment. But but throughout this whole residential area, there are some cops, and maybe they are law enforcement officers, or I'm not sure if they are local police force or just security guards. I didn't ask, I didn't check, I didn't double check their uniform. So, and I don't, and in order to remain as anonymous as possible, I don't suppose I need to check whether they are cops or just ordinary security guards. But things work a bit differently in China, especially in mainland China. As compared to the Western world. But there are something something say that you will bump into in China, as you will in the vast majority parts of the Western world. Say, well, for example, capitalism and consumerism. Yes, these two things run quite prevalent here in China. And of course also feminism. I beg your pardon. Just so you know that we are all more or less brainwashed and indoctrinated. We don't even have our minds of our own, since we all grew up in a world indoctrination full of I and propaganda being spoon fed right into our mouth, down right our throats. Since since we ever since we got popped out right from a bloody vagina. Yes, it's prevalent throughout, at least throughout East Asia, say China, Japan, Korea. Not sure about Mongolia since I've never been there. So, well, if in doubt, you don't have to take my word for it. You can come to Asia and see for yourself. Like I said, you don't have to take my word for it. No, 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 not at all. Not at all. You don't have to take my word for it. But yes, we don't even have minds of our own. Thus, I highly doubt that. I highly doubt the notion of free will. At this point, since every thought is programmed and being programmed by a higher a- a- entity, whether it's your boss or your parents or your national leaders, the politicians, or Satan or God. They all program us to to do exactly what, to think exactly as to think, and to eat exactly what they want us to eat. It's all you know programmed, a mass concentration camp of characterized by societal programming, mass indoctrination, mass surveillance, you know mass mass surveillance and mass indoctrination. So we don't even have wills, we don't even have minds of our own. Pretty much every thought, every piece of thought, every action we take, every decision we make derives from their agenda, their propaganda, their programming, their plans. So and the only way, the only sorts, or I should say, the only you know method, or the only act of rebelling, the only act of rebellion we can resort to is to pretty much remain idle, lie flat, do to contribute to this ruthless meat grinder as little as possible. Say you can do so by eating less, by working less, um, by staying chronically online less. But instead, yes, do the real touch grass thing. Head to the wilderness when things go south. Go to the wilderness and live like a barbarian. Yeah. Go when things go south. Go to the wilderness and live like a barbarian. That's pretty much all I can say. About how to the matrix, how to liberate yourselves from ruthless and relentless and brutal rat race. you know. In any regards, do you guys have any more questions or doubts that you would like to get clarified or ask me about? If you guys have no more questions for this live filming session, then I guess I guess I have quite enough. Determinism for the win. I guess much of the paths you walk through in your life has already been programmed, has been all caused by a higher being, by a higher power. Yes, more or less. But yes, the most nevertheless, you can still go to places that's within that's within your reach. You can choose choose freely to go to places that's within your reach, and places that you can afford to go to, and and that's and thus you let God and Satan and those slave masters harvest less of your energy and your lush as a result of you getting stranded in a state of chronic severe depression and anxiety and fear and insecurities and a constant sentiment of inadequacy, of feeling inadequate, feeling like a loser, feeling like a failure, blah blah blah. At least say in my case, I made a business trip last year to Hong Kong. Despite all the odds, I do kind of take pride in that. At least I beat at least my I broke the siege. I made a break, at least somewhat of a breakthrough in year 2025, despite the fact that I lost my dad. I lost my old man to that wicked woman. I also lost my grandma. I lost pretty much the vast majority of the inheritance of my old man. Now I have is just this flat and just some coins, and this fighting spirit blended with Japanese pure black coffee. The fighting spirit of that I learned from Far From Weak and from my own childhood savageness, my own childhood savageness, just and my final. How does the Japanese pure black coffee taste? It tastes freaking bitter, but it also has a strangely relaxing and also a bit of perplexing and charismatic aroma / fragrances that keep you pushing forward while you do the hard thing, while you leave your comfort zone and do the hard thing that you should in order to improve your life. It is totally healthy. It has no sugar whatsoever. It has no sugar. It has no carbohydrates. Just a trace amount of sodium as naturally occurring, to the coffee, you know. So yeah, I highly recommend that you drink this while you have to do some hard work, while you have to get some serious done. Um, and I'm not sponsored. I'm not sponsored or endorsed, no endorsed, by the company here. They did not pay me a single dime. They did not pay me a single penny for recommending their products to you guys. But this just in my case, in my case, it is the most bottled and or canned coffee that you can find on and the most healthy, the most cost effective bottled coffee you can find on the market so far. Yeah, at least so far. Yeah. Caffeine. I don't know about the content of. According to their label, it says it contains around 200 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram. 200 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram. Yeah. Shokunin no coffee. Yeah. So yeah. Before I conclude this live stream, I have a message to my to the trolls, to my haters of my channel. You can troll me all you like, all you want, and I will try my best, not to get triggered, by your by your malicious intent to hit my nerves. You can troll me all you like, call me a loser, call me a lost cause, whatsoever. But know this, you pick on those that either can't or won't retaliate. On mostly those other dudes online. It's because you hide behind your mask. You hide behind your internet cables, and you don't even show your face on which indicates how much of a cowardice, how much of a cowards you are. And I will dare to invite you to invite you to a fist fight, one-on-one with me. I can guarantee that I will knock you hard, and I will knock you out cold, despite the fact that I haven't had a proper meal for nearly 2 weeks. I will crush you, and don't let me ever catch you physically in real life. Just because I don't block you, it doesn't mean that I am pleased with your behaviors. But still, I give you as much freedom, or as much freedom of speech as I can. Since I can be sympathetic and understanding. Since I know, I understand that pretty much all men nowadays are going through really, really, really hardcore shit, right? So I can more or less, I understand why you troll me, why you post so much hateful and trolling comments on on YouTube. But just know this. Just know this. You are a coward for hiding behind those comments instead of taking real, instead of standing, instead of coming up, instead of standing forward and take real physical actions to change your life. And you have even fewer things to show for, even than hiding in my room, even than you don't even make a single video to voice your own opinions, but instead you type all those you type all those trash talks just to try to ruin someone else's day, try to grab attention, try to garner attention, you know instead of doing something real to change your own life. Just mind your business. Get a life. Stop being pathetic. I'm telling you to stop being a loser or a troll or a lost cause, but instead you are pathetic cowards by hiding behind network cables and your masks on YouTube. And you won't even dare to speak up. I believe I can safely bet that you won't even dare to speak up, to stand up for yourselves in real life when you're abused or mistreated by those NPCs, your bosses, blah blah blah. At least I dare to stand up for myself. At least I dare to speak up for myself, no matter how much I stutter. No matter how much of a fool I make myself. You know, at least I make far more videos than you. At least I have far more things to show for than you ever will. So get alive. Stop being pathetic and start taking real physical actions to improve your own quality of life instead of doom scrolling, instead of posting all those trash talks, trying to upset someone on the internet you may never meet in real life. Just try to troll someone. Try to at least try to troll someone. Try to mourn in NPC's years in real life, say in Walmart, supermarket, and document the whole document how you piss them off. At least in that case you have something to show for. You have at least you can impress someone and make someone else's days by making them laugh. In that case in that case maybe you do deserve a lot more respect than you currently do. But what you are currently doing is just straight up pathetic and and irrational, to say the least. It's even more rational. It's even more pathetic than fapping 10 times a day. But beg your pardon. I'm really not good at bashing or roasting people. Since most of the times I just talk about my own struggles and how I have been taking actions to do them. So I beg your pardon if I have done a terrible job at at roasting those trolls. But in any regards, thank you very much for tuning in. And in case I starve to death or get persecuted by that wicked one to death, in case still God might still show me some mercy, I'll see you around on YouTube and Patreon, Rumble.com, BitChute, blah blah blah. Yeah. So have a lovely day or night, or at least have a better day than I am. Take care, stay out of trouble, and more importantly, stay far from weak. Cheers.